Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Trying to decide which direction to go here in this segment. I think I'm going to shift gears a little bit from where I was planning to go. And I want to talk about this union business in Michigan. You have union leaders out there. Michigan's going to become a right-to-work state today. I mean, perhaps it's even been signed into law today by Governor Rick Snyder. And by the way, this is a very, very important thing to understand and to remember, that even though the Democrats did win the White House, it's important to understand that Republicans won state houses and governorships all over the fruited plain. There are 27 state governments now, including the one in Michigan, that are exclusively in the hands of the Republican Party. Have a Republican governor, Republican House, and a Republican Senate. 27. Democrats only have 13. So by a 2-1 margin, at the state level, voters have chosen conservative leadership. I do not want to hear anything about this bloodbath. I don't want to hear anything about some kind of a mandate. I don't want to hear anything about what a catastrophic loss this was. Disappointing, yes, but let's keep things in perspective here. Voters sent conservatives back to the House of Representatives, and they put conservatives in governorships and in state houses by a 2-1 margin. There are 30 governors out of the 50 that are Republicans. This is absolutely huge. Nobody's talking about it, but it's a very, very significant thing. And one of the places it's significant is in Michigan, which is, I mean, this is the heartbeat of unionism. This is the fount of unionism is Michigan, with all of the automakers there, the big three automakers. And part of what's going on in Michigan is I think people are realizing that it was unions that killed the American auto industry. Now, I want to be clear. I got nothing against unions per se. I am pro-choice when it comes to being involved in a union. If you want to be a part of a union, knock yourself out. What I am against is people being forced to join a union and pay union fees against their will as a condition of employment. That's immoral, it's unethical, and it's wrong. One of our unalienable rights is the right not only to life, but to liberty, to work where we choose, to live where we choose, and to work for whom we choose, and not have those terms dictated to us by some other third party. So I am pro-choice when it comes to belonging to a union. It's the unions that are not pro-choice. They're fighting this thing tooth and nail. They do not want people to have the freedom to choose whether they belong to a union or not. They want to force people to join a union. That's tyrannical. That's dictatorial. There's no freedom in that. There's nothing American about that. Now, let's play President Obama clip number 1. He's out there yesterday, and nothing he says in this soundbite, nothing he says in this soundbite is true. And yet, because it's endlessly repeated by a sycophantic media, the mainstream media, the ministers of propaganda, then people think that what he's saying is true. Here he is at a rally yesterday in Michigan. Let's listen.
I just got to say this. What we shouldn't be doing is trying to take away your rights to bargain for better wages and working together. We shouldn't be doing that. These so-called right-to-work laws, they don't have to do with economics. They have everything to do with politics. What they're really talking about is giving you the right to work for less money.
Excuse me. So that's what President Obama, excuse me. All right, I'm back. So here's what President Obama is saying, is that they are trying to take away your right to bargain for better wages. Absolutely not true. Absolutely flat, bald-faced, flat-out lie. There is nobody is being robbed or deprived of their right to participate in collective bargaining. They want to join a union, they can do it. This is a bald-faced lie from the president of the United States. Nobody's right to bargain. Nobody's right to join a union. Nobody's right to engage in collective bargaining has been taken away. The only thing that has been removed is the obligation for them to join a union and pay union dues as a condition of being able to work and supply the needs of their family. And he says what they're really talking about is giving you the right to work for less money. He said not right to work, it's the right to work for less money. Again, this is an absolute bald-faced lie. The states that are right to work states, there's 24 states in the union now that are like Michigan. They are right to work states. That's where the jobs are. That's where the income growth is. That's where wages are growing. It is the union states that are deader than a doorknob. Now, one of the things you've got in Michigan is you've got a lot of public school teachers who are part of a union. They're striking today. They're not even showing up for work. One school district just had to close. They're like, we're not going to have enough teachers here tomorrow to teach your kids, so keep them home, stay home. They're just shutting the place down. Remember, in Wisconsin, they had doctors out there giving them these phony medical excuses for skipping work in order to go down to the State House and protest. In Michigan, they're just straight out about it. Our people just aren't going to show up for work tomorrow, which normally is a firing offense. You're supposed to show up for work, and you don't show up for work, you get fired. How many times can you do that and get away with it? But they're making it a sort of a rite of passage in Detroit, including some of the teachers that are striking are in Detroit. Now listen to this. Here's what the teachers union in Detroit is getting done. According to the U.S. Department of Education, so this is according to Obama's own people, only 7% of eighth graders in Detroit, Michigan are grade level proficient or better in reading. 7%. That means 93% of the eighth graders who are being taught by union teachers cannot read their way out of a paper sack. They can't read Brer Rabbit to their kid brothers and kid sisters. And they're out there taking a vacation day or a sick day to protest this right to work legislation. Now, they do even worse in math. Check this out. Only 4% are proficient or better in math in the Detroit public schools. So, and in the whole state of Michigan, and we're talking about public school students here, so almost every one of these students now is going to be taught by somebody that's part of the teachers union. Only 32% of public school eighth graders scored grade level proficient or better in reading, 31% in math, which means if you flip it upside down, 68% of Michigan public school eighth graders, what I gave you first was Detroit, 7% proficient in reading, 4% in math. Statewide, 68% of Michigan public school eighth graders are not proficient in reading. 69% are not proficient in math. And they've made no progress in the last decade. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this ought to outrage you. It angers me. And I'll tell you why it angers me, because I am grieved for these kids. What future? This just teased me off. These kids are being robbed of a shot at a future. They've got no education. They can't read. They can't write. They can't add. They can't subtract. How in the world are these people going to find gainful employment and provide for their families? It's crippling to them. So it's just not only outrageous. It ought to break our hearts to look at the human cost of this colossal, spectacular, incompetent failure. So that's what's going on in Michigan, and you wonder why companies don't want unions. We talked about this story. This is back 4 years ago. This is 2 years or 4 years ago, where Chrysler, they had video footage of these Chrysler guys out there boozing it up and smoking marijuana on their lunch breaks. And they got fired by Chrysler, partly because of the public attention. Now, the union got involved, and with union-backed arbitration, Chrysler was forced to hire these people back. They're drunks, they're potheads, they're doing it on company time in part, and because of the union, they were forced to be hired back. And here's a union official. We're going to undo 100 years of labor relations. There will be blood. So that's a union guy threatening to bust some heads. Now, I'm not going to have time to go through all of this, I don't think, before the break. We got a special guest at the bottom of the hour, but I want to talk a little bit about this whole union business. And I want to make the case. There's a good piece in the Wall Street Journal today, and I want to make the case that those that are for right to work, that is the right to work without having to join a union, they have the moral and public policy high ground. It's not the union work people. It's not President Obama that has the moral and policy high ground. It's the right to work people. They're the ones striking a blow for workers and striking a blow for freedom. Now, again, I played the soundbite. President Obama said they're trying to take away your rights to bargain. It does no such thing. That's an absolute, total, bald-faced lie. And I got to tell you, I'm just getting stewed over having a president who so brazenly lies to his own people. What Right to Work does is it empowers individual workers, and this is allowed under the 1947 Taft-Hartley Act. Right to Work just means that individual workers get to choose for themselves if they want to join a union. So these liberals are out there, they're pro-choice about everything except freedom. The only thing that they do not want to let people have a choice about is freedom. And that's what's going on here with this battle over unions. So all a Right to Work law does is prevent what's called a closed union shop. Where you want a job there, you got to join the union. Now, what this means is if you don't have to join a union and you don't want to, you get to pocket the union dues. Now, right now, you don't. You're in a closed union shop. That money's taken out of your paycheck. You never see it. It goes into union coffers, goes right out of union coffers into Democrat candidate campaign chests, and you never see a dollar of it. But if you have a choice, then you don't have to spend those dues if you don't want to. That money is yours to keep and spend to take care of your family. This is why unions hate it, because they know that a lot of workers, if they had a choice, would not join a union. They've seen what's happened to the auto makers. They've seen what's happened to the steel industry. They've seen what's happened to the post office. Unions have killed all of those. Unions are bankrupting cities and state governments all over the United States. And remember what happened to Hostess. What killed Hostess? Why can't you get a Hostess Twinkie today? One word, union. The Teamsters Union, the bakery people, remember they had these absurd rules, union rules, where if you had cake, it had to be delivered in one kind of truck, even if you go to the same address. If it was bread, it had to be delivered in a separate truck. So it was the unions that took Hostess down, and now, what's the deal? Nobody's got cake, nobody's got bread. Got a school district near where I live, they've got no bread because their contract was with Hostess. Focal Point, AFR Talk, back in 2.